Welcome to The Explainer, where we break down big topics into clear, understandable concepts.
So let's start with a question that really every modern business has to face. How do you turn this absolute sea of raw data, we're talking millions of sales, shipments, clicks, into something you can actually use? How do you find the insight in all that noise? Well, the answer lies in this really powerful technique called dimensional modeling. And the genius of it, really, is that it all begins by focusing on one single measurable event, something like a sale. Instead of trying to boil the whole ocean, you just start with one drop. Okay, so to analyze these events, we first need to kind of deconstruct them, right? We've got to break them down into their core building blocks. So the first building block is the fact. Now, this represents the core event you want to measure. It's the action. It's the what happened. A sale happened. A shipment went out. A payment was made. That's your fact. Next up are the dimensions. Now, these provide all the contextual details that surround that fact. So if the fact is what happened, the dimensions answer all the other questions: the who, the what, the when, and the where. And finally, we have the measures. These are the numbers. They're the quantifiable numeric properties of the fact. They answer the how many or how much questions. So the crucial point is that these three elements have to work together. As you can see right here, they give you a complete picture of a single business event. You've got the fact, the sale, right in the middle. It's described by its dimensions, product, store, date, and it's quantified by its measures. How many were sold? Were there any returns? Okay, so that's the basic theory, but let's dive into how we actually build one of these models. You know, it's actually a pretty structured three-step process. First, you pick your business process. What are you looking at? Sales, leases. Then you identify the dimensions that are going to give you the context you need. And finally, you choose the facts you want to measure. Now, what's really interesting here is this really simple rule for choosing your facts. They must be numbers that you can meaningfully add up. Quantity sold? Perfect. Sale amount? Absolutely. But a text description or even a unit price? Unusable as a fact because you can't really sum them up in a meaningful way across different transactions. And this concept of additivity is totally vital. Some numbers, like sales, are fully additive. You can sum them across anything. But some numbers, like, say, an account balance or an inventory level, they can't be summed up across every dimension, right? It doesn't make sense to add up your inventory count across time. So we have to be aware of that. So not all business questions are the same, which means we need different types of fact tables to answer them. And this table here, this illustrates the three main types beautifully. They're each designed for a different kind of analysis. So let's take a quick look at each one. First is the transaction table. This is the most common one. It records a single event, which gives you this incredibly detailed one row per event view of what's going on. Next is the periodic snapshot, and this is kind of like taking a photo of your business at regular intervals. It shows the cumulative performance over a set period, like a monthly summary. And then there's the accumulating snapshot. This one tracks a business process over its entire life cycle. A single row gets updated as the process, like an order fulfillment, moves through its various stages. But what if you want to analyze events that never even occurred? This is where a really fascinating and, honestly, a kind of counterintuitive concept comes into play. It's called the factless fact table. So how does it work? Well, it works by just capturing the relationships between different dimensions, like which students registered for which courses. And that lets you find the gaps, the events that didn't happen. You can compare who did register against everyone who could have registered and instantly see who is missing. Okay, so let's bring all this together and see why this actually matters. Here's the key takeaway. By organizing data around these business events, this modeling technique provides a really simple but high-performance way to analyze your operations. And this right here brilliantly illustrates the whole thought process. It's not just a technical thing. It starts with a high-level business process and a question, and that drives everything right down to the specific design choices you make. You know, this structured way of thinking isn't just for data experts. It's like a new lens through which pretty much anyone can view and understand a business. It's a really powerful idea.